Hello English 11, Mr. Johnson here. So today we're going to take a look at the Nick Adams stories, and we're actually only going to read one of them today, and then the second one we'll read tomorrow. We used to read 4 of these back when we had, classes in person, but we just don't have time right now. So we're going to read one of them today, and then another one tomorrow, and that will be your dose of Nick Adams for the week. So who is Nick Adams? Well, Nick Adams basically is Ernest Hemingway's alter ego. So Miss Arkland went over who Ernest Hemingway was yesterday, and if you didn't quite click on that video in the last slide in her presentation, I would recommend going back and doing that if you're curious about who he was right here now, because his life actually was really fascinating, and he did a lot of really random stuff, which kind of bled into his writings. So Nick Adams is basically Ernest Hemingway's way of writing about himself without actually writing about himself, if that makes sense. That's what an alter ego is. So he is working some things out on the page in his short stories, stuff that actually happened to him, or a version of it happened to him. Let's be clear, this is still fiction. It's not quite biography or memoir, but it's blurring those lines a little bit, and he is using his own memories and his own experiences and people that he knew in his life to fuel the characters and to inspire the characters that you're going to read about today. So the events might have changed, the people might have changed a little bit to suit his narrative needs, but he is writing from his own experience, and he's working out his own sort of emotional state on the page, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so the story we're gonna take a look at today is called Indian Camp, and right off the bat, just from the title, you can tell that I have to give you at least one warning, and actually I have 2 warnings for you today as we start reading this story. So first of all, it's gonna come off as really racist, and that's because it is, basically. Ernest Hemingway wrote this 100 years ago, and so there's no way that he would be able to write this story today. He'd be eaten alive by the critics. However, what you also have to realize about that is that what he's writing about is pretty accurate of sort of some sentiments and the sentiments, maybe common sentiments of people of that time. And so, while you have to kind of realize that I'm not trying to give him a cop-out by saying all of this, but what he's representing, or what he's trying to represent on the page, is pretty accurate of how people would have actually talked, felt, thought at the time. So that's something to keep in mind. The other warning that I have to give you is that this story is a little bit gruesome. There's some pretty just graphic details. It's not necessarily violent. Well, I would call it's almost violent. There's definitely some things in here where if you're feeling squeamish, brace yourself. Drink a glass of water. It's a lot. So I'm going to read this to you in a separate video, and you can either follow along with my video or you can just head out and start reading it. That's fine. But I just want to tell you what to look for before you start reading. So maybe open up the Google form that you can see linked below, and then you'll know what you're looking for. And I just want to remind you that you're looking for traits of the Hemingway hero, and I would like you to focus specifically on one character, that's Nick, in this story. And each day, today and tomorrow, you're going to be looking for all 6 traits, and all 6 traits are present within each of his short stories there. But we're only going to be looking for 3 per day. So the Google form only has you looking for traits 4, 5, and 6. So that's forced into heroic roles. Nick does not volunteer, does not see himself as heroic. So you're going to look for a quote for that, and you're going to have to explain that quote and how that quote backs up that trait. The second trait you're going to be looking for today is that he wants to be a master of sport, soldiering traditional male pursuits. He finds beauty and solace in sport and its rituals, finds reward in having done a job well. And I would focus on the last part of that trait. Finds reward in having done a job well. Okay, and then the third trait you're going to be looking for is that he has an ultimate goal. He wants to show grace under pressure. He wants to face danger or death without cracking, complete the job capably. Whether or not he lives up to that is a question for debate, but that is his goal, right? So look for those 3 traits in the story. At this point, you can either watch my video of me reading it to you, or you can just read it yourself and then answer the questions. Thanks.